We're really excited for this session today around artificial intelligence in the classroom, introduction and tools, with our partnership with Kids Code Jeunesse, and really excited to be sharing with you as part of our virtual training series some maybe new topics for you as you continue to learn with us online during this time. I'm super honored to have with us Kyla Stratton from Kids Code Jeunesse, who will be leading us in today's session. And before we get I just wanted to give you a little background around Logix, who we are, and then hand it over to Kyla to do the same. So again, my name is Rami Gaddis from Logix. Logix is a Canadian company based out of Markham, Ontario. We work with educators across the country and as well have 3 divisions. Logix Education works on tools and resources to really support digital literacy, robotics, and coding integration in the classroom. Our Logix Academy is a student-focused academy where we deliver direct-to-student programs in and out of the classroom. And Logix also works as in the consumer section. So we have solutions that stores like Best Buy, Toys R Us, and available online as well. You may be familiar with some of our products and resources that we all have come to love, like Dash and Dot and MBOT and Cody Rocky, as well as some of our makerspace solutions like 3D printers and laser cutters, and now actually all virtual robots as well. So exciting to share some of those with you. Our really deep curriculum on code to learn and learn to code, all aligned to provincial standards and international standards, as well as our ton of professional development we do. With reach right across the country, working as far west in Yukon and BC, all the way to St. John's, and working with the whole province in Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. Really excited to be connecting with educators and schools across the country. If you are interested after today, more than welcome to join our educator community. It's a free community where we have hundreds and hundreds of STEM robotics and coding educators connecting, collaborating, sharing what they're doing in the classroom to learn from each other. So feel free to jump on and share your story and share what you're learning there. And again, of course, this is part of an overall series, thanks to the support of many of our partners, to bring you training at home throughout since March all the way till the end of June, and hopefully we'll continue this on an ongoing basis with many topics in STEM, robotics, coding, remote learning tools. So check out the website to explore more training opportunities after today. So again, without any further ado, I'm super pleased to introduce you today to Kyla from Kids Code Jeunesse, who will be leading us in this session on artificial intelligence in the classroom. And what an exciting session topic that is. So I'm going to turn it over, and I'm excited to learn alongside all of you today.
Thank you so much for the introduction and all the information, because it is something that's also new to me. So it's always great to learn about all the offerings that we have for us as educators, but also for our students, which is primarily why we are here. Yes, my name is Kyla Stratton. I am a facilitator and community developer with Kids Code Jeunesse. I am actually based out of St. John's, Newfoundland, so I'm way on the East Coast. I see one other from Newfoundland here represented, some others from the East Coast. I love to see that. But also it's very cool to be able to extend my reach beyond my local community through opportunities like this. And I would like to thank Logix for allowing me to have this platform. Today, we are going to talk about artificial intelligence. It's something that I've delivered to a lot of classrooms across my province. It's something that's delivered in a lot of classrooms all across Canada. Today's version is like the teacher training version. Typically, we have a little bit longer for the session, but I love a challenge. I love to be able to reduce the amount of time that I have, but still be able to pack the punch with all the information that we have. So I'm going to share with you in the chat just a resource list that I have compiled for some of the things that I'm going to talk about today, some things that you can have a look at afterwards in your classroom, just a really comprehensive list of some of the AI tools. And then I'm going to go in and give the presentation, talk about AI, what it is, show you some tools that we can use, and some tips and tricks that I've found to be useful when talking about AI to kids, because it's something that maybe you're not personally familiar with. It's something that our kids aren't familiar with in a formal sense, but they are very, they're very immersed within the AI culture. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's try this. All right, if I can just get like a thumbs up or something, perfect, thank you. All right, so that is the resource that I shared with you. Have a look at it after. There is a feedback survey at the end, and it's going to talk about a lot of the things that I've talked about today and a few other extra little tidbits. That's going to be pretty interesting. All right, so let us start. Oops, present, here we go. Switch it back and forth between different platforms. All right. Intro to artificial intelligence. And because this presentation is more of a info and introduction and an introduction to some of the tools, you can ask some questions in the chat. I will absolutely get to them if I can. My email is also in that document that I shared with you, and I would absolutely love to have any questions that you think about, whether today, tomorrow, if you're pondering it, or if once you start to use it in the classroom, if you have any questions, you can always reach me at my email, and I will more than happily work through that with you. So we talk about artificial intelligence, and we know from an English standpoint, from an English literary standpoint, what artificial means and what intelligence means. When I ask kids, what is artificial intelligence, the first thing that I get is robots. They say robots, artificial intelligence, robots going to take over the world. They can be silly, they can be crazy, they're on my phone, they're, they come up with the wildest and wackiest things. And yes, that is correct. But I want to explain to them and to you that artificial intelligence isn't as, robust and crazy as a robot. It can be something very simple, such as image recognition. And that's kind of mainly what we're going to focus on. It blends in nicely with some of the tools that we have, and then they can really connect with what artificial intelligence is around them and how it actually pertains to them as a student. So when I will just explain that some of these slides and stuff is a compilation of stuff that I do deliver directly to students. Some of it is what I deliver to educators to be able to go back and then deliver to their students. But I will give you some tips and stuff and things that kids really, really focus on, because as we know, they are a blessing when it comes to focus on certain things. And they really do focus on robots and how they pertain to their lives. And yes, like I said, robots are the case, but what is a robot? Robot can be something as simple as our computer, or not simple, but as, I guess, mainstream as our laptops or our phones. So they say, how do robots, how does artificial intelligence, how do these systems understand what we're talking about? And we always throw it back to, well, how do we learn? How do we learn? And the example that we're going to talk about throughout this presentation is a fork. How do we know what a fork is? And how do we translate those images, those understandings that we have of a fork, how do we translate that into an artificial intelligence system? So as a toddler, we go to eat, we use our hands, it's just food to face, because that's what makes the most sense to us as a toddler, until somebody introduces us to a fork. We can feel the fork. We know if we can imagine the texture of a fork. There's different types of forks, whether that be some type of metal, some type of plastic, some kind of wood. We know what a fork can feel like. We can hear it, not specifically the fork, but we can make the association with the fork that it scrapes against our plate, those uncomfortable sounds that we don't like. But we can understand, we can make those connections. We can smell it. Maybe not directly the fork, maybe if it has a metallic-y smell, but we can absolutely make the association with a fork. The only time that we use fork is when something that like food is involved. We can smell different types of food, and we can connect a bunch of pathways in our mind. Sight, we know what a fork looks like. We know different orientations of a fork. If we have to flip through our mind of all of the images of fork, they all look differently. And finally, the taste. That's the biggest association that we have with a fork, is the taste. We get to eat food, we get to enjoy food, we get different types of food, we have all different associations, but to eat these things, we likely use a fork. So how do we get an artificial intelligence or a computer or what have you, how do we get them to be able to understand this? They don't have the senses that we have. And ever since we were toddlers, ever since we were in the womb and beyond, we have been collecting examples, not necessarily of forks, but we've been collecting examples within our brains, within our neural network. So we have to tell an artificial intelligence system how to identify forks, and humans do that. And that's a really big, I guess, driving point of this presentation and of when we talk to kids about artificial intelligence, is that yes, there are robots, yes, there are artificial intelligences all around us, but they are human-based. There is no such thing as a bad robot that's going to take over the world. There is such a thing as bad people that instruct the robot to do these things. So we really try to connect and bridge the gap between technology and humans and realize that they are one and the same. So humans, AI trainers, actually have to go into images, various images, and indicate whether there is a fork in this image, and if there is a fork, where is it? So we have 3 different images here. One is a cartoon, one is actual real life, and the other one is an animation. And we have 3 different forks. The purposes of these images, all taken from movies, isn't, oh wow, look, there's a fork. That's not what a child is going to see, that's not what I'm going to see, and that's not what an AI is going to see unless we instruct them that inside of those red squares, there are forks. And that's the only thing that the AI is going to care about, is inside, what is inside of that red square. So you take these examples of forks, wherever you get them, whatever images you collect, and you say, here are 4 things where inside of these 4 squares, these 4 rectangles, there are absolutely forks. A human needs to say that. The AI trainer needs to say, these images have forks. We do this without even really realizing. So an AI trainer is an actual job, but we do it maybe daily, maybe a couple times a week when we're trying to submit something or watch something or read an article online. And it asks us, it instructs us to select all the squares with traffic lights. We have 9 squares on the screen maybe, and 3 of them have traffic lights in them. So we click on the 3 squares that have traffic lights. We are giving an AI system, we are training that AI system for free. We are doing free labor. I find that's a really good way to connect students with the concepts of being an AI trainer as a career with something that we do in our daily lives anyway. So we need to collect images of forks. An AI trainer does that. Almost as importantly, you need to collect images that are not forks. You need to instruct the AI of examples that are and counter examples that are not. We also do that when we select, 3 out of the 9 squares that have traffic lights. We also are instructing that the other 6 squares do not have traffic lights. So we are giving information about all 9 of the squares when we are doing it on our own computers. Here we have 4 examples of forks, different orientations, different color schemes, different hues, different objects kind of, obstructing the view of the fork as a total object. And then we have 4 things that are not forks. When I ask kids, hey, here are 4 things that are not forks. A cat is not a fork. And they laugh and they giggle. Of course, a cat is not a fork. But can we as humans make the association between a cat and a fork? And yes, we can. If we are feeding our cat some wet food out of a tin or something, likely we're going to use a fork to scoop it out. The whisk is not a fork, but it does have very similar appearance. Often it's made out of the same material. If it's found in the same drawer or a neighboring drawer in a house, and the same thing with scissors and the house, you can make associations with them and draw relationships. Now, we can do that as humans, and it's important to note that an AI cannot make those relationships. It cannot develop those connections between things that are or are not forks. All they do is look at the images that they are presented with, 4 that are, 4 that are not, and then draw their conclusions based on that. And then we test the AI system. So here we have 8 images or 8 pieces of information, 8 examples, and we're going to test this AI. This AI has no prior knowledge other than the 8 things that we have given it. And we're going to test it with this image over here. Now, I'm not going to say what the image is. We all know what the image is, but we're not testing it to know what that image is. We're testing it to ask, is this a fork? Yes or no? That's what we're going to test. And it's maybe a little bit surprising, it may be a little bit surprising to know that this AI system, this very, very simple AI system with 8 images, is pretty well trained, Okay, it's going to say it's not a fork. I'm 90% sure. 90% sure seems like a very high number, and it is. If I scored 90% on a test, I would be happy. But 90% for an AI system is not that great. It's good. It's good. It's saying, it's getting the information across that we want. It's 90% sure that it's not a fork, but it needs to get higher. We want to increase that confidence level. We want to be able to have it almost 100% distinguish between forks and not a fork, especially with an image that is so very close to being a fork. It's saying, I don't know what it is, but I'm 90% sure it's not a fork. So this is a question I throw out to you. This is something you can answer in the chat, or you can just ponder it. How do we make our AI more confident? So with the training model that we've just seen, we have 4 images that are forks, 4 images that are not, or counterexamples, and we had 90% sure. How can we make it more confident? Do we get more general examples of forks? Do we get more counterexamples? Do we get more diverse examples of forks? Or do we do all of that? Okay. And when we give these examples, it's important for us to realize the content behind the examples. Did I give all examples of metallic forks and now I'm testing it with a wooden spoon? Did I give it all examples of forks with objects on them and now I'm giving a fork without an object on the tongs? So how do we kind of make our AI more confident? And it is all of the above. Okay, it is all of the above. We need to give more examples in general. General examples, diverse examples, counter examples, all of the examples, all of them. And when we give all of those examples, when we really go through and highlight maybe hundreds, thousands, millions of examples and counter examples of forks, we create what's called a data set. And within that data set, if you can see here, there are lots of different types of forks, different orientations of forks. I often get the question, how many examples are too many examples? And I don't believe that there is a cap. There isn't definitely not a finite cap on that. But I think as long as you have a good comprehensive set of different types of forks, different colors, different orientations, everything that you can think of, then you have a very well-rounded data set and you are likely to have a higher confidence level. There is a video that I would normally show here about bias and how we have bias kind of interwoven, maybe unconsciously interwoven within our data set. And that is a video that is in the resource sheet. But it's basically saying that in order to eliminate or to reduce the amount of bias that we have, we need to really ensure that all of the images that we have are a broad and very expansive overview of the image that we're trying to portray, such as a fork. So the inner workings of the AI and what's actually happening is in each one of these examples that is given in the data set, it's going to decompose the image. It's going to say a human told me that there is a fork within all of these images, within all of these squares, and I need to find out where it is. I need to find a pattern. I need to build a model. And by decomposing the image, first we have an image of a pizza with a fork, and we look at this image and we automatically probably think of the pizza because that's what I would think of. I'm quickly told by students that the problem with this image is not the fact that we're looking for a fork. It's the fact that we're using a fork anyway with pizza. I was called a monster for using a fork to eat my pizza. But anyway, I'm going to look through this image, and AI is going to scan through this image. It's not going to make any other relationships or connections other than I'm trying to find a similar pattern in all of these images. And this is, as you see, it's going to break it down into things that are possible forks or possible models, starts of models, all those little white lines, until it actually zones in and says, hey, I see this straight, what is we know as a handle with some spiky things on the top. And that is something that I've noticed in the majority of these images and can be replicated. And now I'm building my model. So you have your data set, your learning algorithm, where it builds this model out, and then it classifies it. So that is what AI, that's the training process of an AI. That is when you go on Google and you type in, I don't know, brown cat on Google Images, you get a bunch of images of brown cats. Partly that is because those are the images that are selected by AI trainers. But a lot of that may be on the second and third, fourth page like that of the Google Images, that you are getting ones that are just classified using an AI. Of course, that classification would not be possible without the human input of the data set. So you really need to just make the connection between, even though there's an AI suggestion or here's an AI producing a classification of an image, it still does stem from the work that the actual humans have done. So to draw from all of this and to kind of conclude all of this is the larger our data set, the more examples are going to be within our learning algorithm, the better we can get our model to be, and then the higher the confidence of our classification system. Classification system is fork, not a fork. It's not fork, not a fork, spoon, knife, it's nothing like that. It's just simply, is it a fork, yes or no? So that was a nice little whirlwind of an introduction to image recognition and machine learning of AI. We do have some algorithm literacy and stuff in the resources that I have sent you. But right now, I'm going to go into something that's maybe a little bit more interesting to you all, and that's your classroom activities. Now, I've tested these classroom activities with students as young as grade 2 and as old as grade 9. They went flawlessly in both. I don't see why it wouldn't be appropriate to extend that below grade 2 or above grade 9. And I just think when it comes to these particular tools that I'm going to show you, it's just content based. We all know that how we teach or the examples that we give to students that are younger versus older are going to be different, and the same thing applies here. So the first one that we're going to talk about is called Teachable Machine. Okay, and I will demonstrate how to use Teachable Machine using the first version. Again, all of this is linked in the resource sheet that you have. Before we start with this, though, I would like to say that I make a great connection here with students between AI as technology, as an isolated topic, and communication real world. So what we're going to be doing with the Teachable Machine is we're going to be teaching an AI using our webcam to see us. It's going to be able to see us, recognize what we're doing to varying confidence levels. And by testing this, I could do just something silly with my hands, but if you guide them to do things such as ASL, American Sign Language, then they can really connect between people that are hearing and non-hearing, and being able to use a tool such as this, or using AI in general, to be able to connect the communication and bridge the gap of communication difficulties. So I'm going to go into Teachable Machine. Here's Teachable Machine. This is just the general version. They've come out with a new version in the beginning, I believe, of 2020. That is really, really cool. We haven't used it in classrooms yet. I do encourage you, especially if you have older students, to use this updated version, because we're going to do images, but you can also go into sounds with some great connections to various projects around the world for AI for Good. But you can go into sounds and poses, doing those silly Fortnite dances and stuff that they do. They can actually use Teachable Machine for that. But we are going to use the older version first from 2017, just to show you. Okay. All right. So if you can't see my face, I'm going to assume that you can. If you can't see my face on the Teachable Machine, just someone let me know. But this is Teachable Machine in all of its glory. You have three main parts. You have your input. This is where you are giving examples. You have our learning. Your learning is your learning algorithm that we had talked about, where it tries to find the models and whatnot. And the output is our classification system. So we have our data set, which we will be developing. We have our learning algorithm, and then our output, which is our classification. So there's three training, I guess, three movements that we can train the AI to see what we're doing. We have green, purple, and orange, and each one of these are going to be doing something different. Let me just grab my mouse. So I'm going to train green first, and I'm just going to wave hello. Now, it's important when you use this, it works best if the students are going to be able to stay within the square that is seen on the computer, and that their hands stay within the actual camera window. And it's also important before we start this, especially when talking with students, is that we have to ensure that their Chromebooks or laptops, iPads, whatever they're using, you are allowing the webcam. Something that we usually advise against: do not allow your webcam, especially in school. And it's a really good digital citizenship plug to say don't allow your camera. With Teachable Machine, you can allow your camera, and here's why. And it's important to inform the students of this, is that Teachable Machine, as designed by Google, is very much isolated within this browser. So as I take pictures and give examples of my images, and it can see me and all that kind of stuff, when I exit out of the browser, when I close out my screen, it all disappears. It is not saved. There's absolute guarantee that you all can feel free to go in and check out. Kids Code Jeunesse has checked it out. There is nothing saved in regards to your images or any type of training data. Nothing is saved once you exit out of this Teachable Machine. Which you can't always guarantee with other products and other things on the internet, which is why we advise everybody, but mainly students, to not allow their webcam unless they're totally comfortable. Here, it's very much contained within the browser. So I'm going to first just wave. I'm going to wave, and as I wave, I'm going to train green and just hold on it, and you'll see the examples come up here in this square. So I'm just going to wave, waving, waving, waving. Okay, and I got 23 examples. Now you're going to see some kind of cute little GIFs coming up on the side there, and we'll get to that in a second. For purple, I'm going to say thank you in ASL, which is touching the chin and coming forward. So touching the chin and coming forward. Okay, 24 examples, relatively the same. And this machine will work best if you give it a reference point. So I'm moving in green and I'm moving in purple. In orange, I'm going to give it a reference point by doing nothing. I'm going to have both hands out of the screen and just looking. Okay, and give it however many examples. Now I can test it. So I can wave. It's pretty confident, 90, it's kind of going a little bit wacky. Pretty confident that I'm waving. And these GIFs are associated with the color. So when I'm waving and it's pretty confident that I am waving, it's giving me a cat, which you can change. You can change all of these. If I say thank you, oh, it's 99% very confident that I am saying thank you. 100, there we go. And it's showing me a dog. And then if I do nothing, it's confident that I am doing nothing, and it shows me a bunny. However, the first one, waving, it's good, but it's kind of still a little bit wacky. How can I make it better? How can I train this system to see me even more clearly and more confidently? Then I give it more examples. So you don't need to reset. You simply go and train more and increase the number of examples. And as you go up, you can train all of these again to get more and more examples. And kids find it hilarious to go kind of wacky with it and have hundreds of examples. But it just goes to show that the more examples you have, the more confident your AI will be. So now that I wave, there's no more kind of flipping back and forth. It's always 99%, 100% confident that I'm training green. You can do sounds. So if I'm doing nothing, it makes that sound. Birds for this. Okay, and you can change those sounds.
Yes.
And there's speech. And this is where it comes into, I'm just going to switch back here for a second, but speech is where you can connect the communications between hearing and non-hearing people with using a tool such as this. So if someone who is non-hearing looks into this AI or something similar and does this, it means thank you. So they can use the speech tool to change this to say thank you. So hello, thank you, and let's just say nothing here because we're not doing anything. And now if I test it.
Hello. Thank you. Nothing.
Okay, so you can see how this can be developed into a much more complex system where a non-hearing person or a non-verbal person can go here.
Thank you. Nothing.
Use their ASL and then have that translated into speech for hearing people. So that's a great way, a great tool and a great connection there. The next one that I'm going to show is Quick Draw. Okay, Quick Draw is also designed by Google, and it's seeing if the AI system can recognize your doodles. So it is the largest doodle network or database in the world, and it's pretty cool. I will demonstrate it. I really encourage you all to play with this after because it's quite fun. You can get pretty immersed within it, particularly this one. So let's draw. So it's asking me to draw a bucket in under 20 seconds. So I'm not an artist by any stretch of the word. So I will just try my best to draw a bucket in under 20 seconds.
I see frying pan. Oh, I know, it's bucket.
Okay, it guessed it before I even put the handle on. Now an umbrella.
I see mountain or triangle. Oh, I know, it's umbrella.
Okay. A parrot. Oh, goodness.
I see knee or garden hose or circle or clock. I see snowman or penguin. Oh, I know, it's parrot.
Okay. A golf club.
I see line. Oh, I know, it's golf club.
It gives you different examples every time that you use this. Now a clarinet. I don't even really know what a clarinet looks like.
I see line. I see golf club. I see hockey stick. Oh, I know, it's clarinet.
Long hair.
I see circle or potato or blueberry or cookie. I see smiley face or curly hair. Oh, I know, it's long hair.
Okay. So as you can see, what the AI was doing was trying to guess what I was drawing. The AI actually figured out all of my doodles in very quickly. I'm not sure if that impressed you or not. It does impress me because what is actually happening is the AI is constantly, as you're drawing, it is constantly evaluating the images and trying to match those patterns. So it's taking it from a huge data set and patterns that has found in the data set to try to connect that with what you've drawn. So the drawings that I have drawn aren't necessarily the exact same as what you would draw if doing these same images, but it's trying to guess it and build those patterns and trying to classify it. Now the classification system here is huge. It's not bucket or not bucket. It is doing that, but for a lot of images, and it's trying to go through them. It also connects back with our learning psychology of how we interpret something. So if it said for me to draw the parrot, I started, I think, with the head. You may start with the body, you may start with the beak, you may start with the wings or the feet, or have something really creative. But it's trying to just evaluate those images and connect them as quickly as possible. So kids really like this as well, but it also relates back to our image recognition. Okay, and now switching gears a little bit, and I apologize that this is so just kind of quick and me rambling. But switching gears a little bit, something that I think is important, something that is a value of nearly every school that I've ever been in contact with, especially within your individual classrooms and stuff, is digital citizenship. And it's something that is, I guess, a very real topic that we can discuss with our students to kind of really engage them in their technologies and the appropriate usage of their technologies. There's a bunch of turnkey resources in the resource sheet for activities regarding digital citizenship, but I want to talk about digital citizenship in relation to AI. So where is AI in our own lives? Where is it? Okay, yes, we just said about using Google Images to find a cat, but where is it? What is it, and how does it impact us? Those are the main questions that we are trying to answer here for us, for all of us, as we use various AIs, but also for the children, also for our students as they maneuver it, because they're being, I mean, they're born now essentially with technologies just surrounding them, and they need to be able to understand what they are and how they impact them rather than just take them for granted. When I discuss this with kids, they just, oh, well, it is how it is. This just happens because it happens. They don't really have any other answers for it. And I get it, because we don't really have any other answers for it until we actually learn about it. But they need to be able to have the knowledge about it, because there is truth in the knowledge is power, and then they can control how AI influences their own lives. So we're going to look at the algorithm kind of in reverse here. Okay, in the process in reverse. So AI influences our lives by choosing or suggesting what we're going to click on next. Instagram, Netflix, YouTube, TikTok. I know it's all the rage with kids. I didn't even really know what it was. Facebook, which kids are very quick to tell us that that's for old people. But all of these things, all of these social medias, Google, everything that we access on the internet primarily is using an influence of AI for various motivations. Typically it is money, but it's going to influence what we are clicking on next. Okay, and how does it do that? It takes your learning algorithm, and we all have individual learning algorithms. We're all here today. We're all availing of this wonderful Logix Academy service that we have, and we're all kind of interested in how AI affects us and our students, but we all have very, very different learning algorithms. Oops. And it gets those, how does it get the data? So here we have our learning algorithm. As we discussed with our image recognition, we have our data set, our learning algorithm, and our classification. So we have our data, learning algorithm, and what we're going to click on next, either click, yes or no. And how does it get that data? Where does the data come from? These data sets are massive, absolutely massive for each one of us. And it comes from our clicks, wherever we click. If we click on a page, if we click on an ad, if we give something a like or a comment, if we're following certain people, shows we've watched, videos we've watched, how long we've watched the videos. If I started watching a YouTube video because it was suggested to me or whatnot, and I only watched the first 30 seconds instead of the full 4 minutes, then that is actually all useful data that is put into your individual data set and the data set of the larger kind of the masses. And then that is all filtered into a learning algorithm to be able to suggest to you. Your suggestions are mainly things that you are interested in or you've seen before or you've searched for or blah, 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 blah. But it can be things just in general that the mass population are looking at right now. And without actually thinking about the algorithm and everything behind that, what becomes very important and a great illustration for us, but also primarily for our students, is the preference bubble. Okay, what is a preference bubble? And how do we influence it? How do we get into it? How do we get out of it? Where do we fit in with this? This is all kinds of questions that we're trying to answer. And you start at the top of the preference bubble. When you get on social media or, whether that be Google or YouTube or Netflix or Instagram, TikTok, anything, when you get onto those platforms, you are entering your preference bubble and it's what you like. So let's say I go and I open up YouTube and I type in funny cat video. I want to watch a funny cat video, and I go in, I type it in, I click on the first or the second or third or whatever comes up on my page, I click on it. I watch it. That's my personal preference is my cat video. It's what I like. I watch it. I watch the 3-minute video. It's funny. I am happy. I'm enjoying myself. What happens when the video has finished? So on YouTube specifically, it will just suggest you another video. Oftentimes it will just autoplay the next video that is suggested. So hey, it's maybe the 20 best funny cat videos of 2020. That sounds great. That's what AI is suggesting to me. It's based on my personal preferences. Sure, I'll watch another funny cat video. So now I'm at the bottom of what AI has suggested to me, and I watch it. The next video, maybe it's funny animal videos or funny dog videos. Maybe it's another funny cat video. It's what's suggested to me. Sure, why not? I can watch this. I'll watch it. Now I'm watching what's suggested to me again. And this is where, as you can see, you'll become trapped in the lower half of this bubble. Instead of being able to get back up to your personal preferences, you're just going to stay in the bottom here. You're going to go back and forth between AI suggesting it to me, I'm watching it. AI suggesting it to me, I'm watching it. And that's fine. That's fine if that's what you want to be doing. But the thing is here is that, is it what you want to be doing, or are you doing it based on the AI influence? And it can be fine if it's just showing you funny animal videos, but using the I guess, uncertainty and complexities of these algorithms, it's not solely based on what we like. It is also based on the mass data, okay? So the things that are being shown to you around the world. And as we know, there's a lot of very important and scary topics that are going on around the world today, specifically even. And we can have our children, we do need to inform our children of all of these things and our students. But if you have a student who's alone watching these videos, watching funny cat videos, oh, ha, 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 and then it's starting to maybe get into a deeper or a darker depth of the internet that they weren't prepared for, whether that's inappropriate, whether that's emotional, or just simply something that they don't want to see, but they don't understand why they're watching it. They're just watching it and they don't know how to control that. So this is where this whole preference bubble thing kind of really comes full circle, pardon the pun, but you get trapped in the bottom part of your preference bubble. And getting trapped in the bottom part of your preference bubble can have virtually no consequences or negative consequences, but it can have some very deep and dark negative consequences. So how can we expand or escape our preference bubble once we get trapped in there? I mean, the consequence might be I've watched 4 hours of funny cat videos and I haven't done my homework. Or the consequence has been I am now watching a video that makes me uncomfortable, or that maybe has more of a mature content and I don't know how I feel about this and I don't know how to talk about how I feel about this. So how can we expand or escape our preference bubble once we realize that we're in it? So you take a step back. After every video, a video does conclude. It's not instantaneous that you're watching new content. You are aware that something else is happening. You're going from one video to another. So take a step back, realize, okay, I've watched 4 funny cat videos or what have you. How do I feel about it? Should I be doing something else? Maybe do I want to watch a video game video now? What do I want to do? How am I feeling? Really check your emotions, and then you can curate your content to expand your bubble, whether that be asking a friend, a neighbor, just asking, hey, what are you watching on YouTube? Who are you following? Did you see this funny video? Blah, 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 blah. And being able to give more data to your data set to be put into your learning algorithm, but then that will actually expand the things that you are watching or learning. And a really good example that I give to students here is Netflix, because as we are watching Netflix, maybe we've watched 4 episodes of The Office and it comes up and says, are you still watching The Office? That actual moment the purpose of it, a lot of people will argue that it's to preserve bandwidth. And yes, that does have very good purpose in preserving the bandwidth. But in regards to our preference bubble in AI, it gives us an actual out. It gives us an out from our preference bubble. It says, hey, okay, you've been watching The Office or whatever for the last 4 episodes. So that's like, what, like 2 hours. You haven't paused the video. You haven't switched the episodes. You started on episode 3. You haven't told me you wanted to watch 4, 5, or 6. But you are watching them. Are you still there? Are you consciously making these decisions? So Netflix does a great job of really illustrating the preference bubble and saying that, well, yeah, I have been sitting here watching it for this long. No, I did not select the next episode. It was simply played for me. Kids will often think that it's just in case you've fallen asleep and they don't want you to miss the next episode, which is a very endearing purpose of it. But that's not the main purpose of it. And it gives you a really good opportunity to escape your preference bubble. And I do think that's very important. And giving the kids the power to say, whoa, okay, I can relate this now back to my preference bubble, which can relate to a bunch of other things. So it kind of really comes full circle for them. And that is it on my end. I've gone 2 minutes over. I see. I am very sorry. Okay. Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to take a few moments to thank you so much for that very insightful session and workshop that you just gave all of us. I personally learned a lot, and I think I'm sure a lot of folks in the group have as well. I want to just first open up the floor to any questions from the group. So if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand in the Teams meeting here, and you can unmute yourself and audibly ask the question. And then after a few moments of questions, we'll be doing our draw for today's giveaway as well. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, maybe ask any questions you may have on whether you're inquiring about the concept itself or on resources that have been shared with us today. I think it's quite fascinating, especially during this time period, as you gave that example of Netflix, of how sort of it learns about our behaviors and then gives us sort of an out if you continue to watch, or teaches you and shows you. And then I think another good example that many of us have probably experienced is with YouTube, where you watch a video, and at the end of the video, it shows you a splash of other videos. And like to reiterate what you're saying, in that example, some of it is based on an AI algorithm of what you're like to watch. However, some of it is actually based on what the host of that video has decided they want you to watch at the end. So some of it is not tailored just to your ability, but rather what they want to influence, or even what's sponsored. So it's really important to know that as much as this could be a natural cycle, it could also be an influence cycle. So I see we have a first question here is from Sophie. How would you define digital citizenship?
Sure. So digital citizenship can be, the definition is very much a running definition. It can be absolutely anything that you want to make it. But as an all-encompassing definition, it is simply how we conduct ourselves in a online or digital platform. It's how we act as citizens. It's the things that we like, dislike, our comments, how we, are we being courteous to other people? Are we spamming? All of these things kind of come into digital citizenship, as well as how we protect ourselves and our privacy online.
That's great. Anyone else have any other questions they may be interested in asking? Again, feel free to either raise up your hand, unmute yourself, or put it into the chat, and we'd be happy to try to get the expertise in the room to answer.
I will also say that if you are pondering this afterwards and you have any other questions, I truly do mean to feel free to use my email, and I will get back to you as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sort of providing your support as educators. Try to implement these wonderful resources you've shared, and it's great to see that you've shared your Kala has shared her email right into the chat there. So for anyone who's interested in reaching out to her after, sounds like she'd be pleased to support. So feel free to implement the resources and connect with her after if you have any questions, or from any of us at the Logix team as well, and we'd be sure to connect all of us together. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, without any further ado, I'll turn it back just to share my screen. Again, a refresher, feel free to join the Logix community to continue the conversation. What we'll do after today as well, we're gonna start a discussion on the community all around AI in the classroom. So I urge all of you to join in there. You can jump right on. Maybe if Kyla would be jump on there and even answer the questions and join in the conversation. This is a free environment for anyone to join and participate. You'll see many other discussion groups, but we'll create one around AI and have all of you ask questions and collaborate together there. And again, if you're interested and if you enjoyed today's session, we'd love to hear from you. We're trying to have more of these by wonderful partners. So I know we have even one this afternoon on virtual robotics environments. We have some later this week on supporting students with special needs and how do we teach digital literacy to students with special needs. We have a number of other ones around data and utilization of data in classroom education from our partners at Let's Talk Science. So we're really excited to be joining forces with many Canadian partners to bring you the best learning in robotics, coding, digital literacy education. And so without any further ado, I know this is always an exciting time at the end of each session. Kids Code Jeunesse has been so supportive in sponsoring this session with a Microbit classroom kit or educator kit to one lucky winner. And the rules were the lucky winner had to have been attending the session. So we have just done a random generator of the attendees. And I'm excited to share with you, maybe we'll get a digital drum roll, but we're excited to share with you that the winner of today's session is Erin, is an educator at TCDSB, and you are the recipient of today's prize. So congratulations, and we'll be sure to connect with you after to get that all sorted. So again, thank you all so much for joining. Thank you again to Kyla for her time, to Kids Code Jeunesse for their support and partnership, and really pleased that we were able to provide this to you from all of us at Logix Academy, and I'm sure from Kyla and the team at Kids Code Jeunesse. We're so pleased to be able to support you through this time period. Don't hesitate to reach out to either organization and continue learning, continue to stay safe and healthy, and continue to keep that mindset of growth and learning at home. And we hope we can give you some resources to connect with your students, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Any other final words, Kala? I'll turn it to you. Otherwise, thanks again so much, folks, for joining us.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much, both to you at Logix Academy. Absolutely amazing. Just how flawlessly this was all organized as well. Shout out to that. But thank you all for joining. Thank you all for being so kind and insightful. And I see lots of your comments there about using this with your students, which is really our goal, right? We have, X number of educators here. I think it's like 20 something, but each one of you has a reach way beyond that. And that is our goal, is to be able to reach the students with this information. And I really thank you for signing up and for being so graciously attending with us today. And Erin, I hope you enjoy your microbits. If anybody else wants to have any, look into microbits or microbit resources, you can also feel free to reach out to me as well, because that is something that we also do at Kids Code Jeunesse.
Great. Again, thank you so much, everyone. We'll stick around for a couple more